An investigation into child sexual exploitation in Manchester failed the very victims it was meant to protect. Operation Augusta was launched in 2004 following the death of a teenager who'd been under the care of Manchester City Council. But a review that's just been published found that police failed to investigate dozens of people accused of grooming despite clear evidence.
There was clear evidence that professionals at the time were aware the young people were being sexually exploited and that this was perpetrated by a group of older Asian men. There was significant information known at the time about these men's names, their locations and telephone numbers, but the available evidence was not used to pursue the offenders. The perpetrators appeared to be operating in plain sight, hanging around in cars outside care homes and foster homes and returning young people to their care addresses.
Well, let's cross live to Manchester and our North of England correspondent, Caterina Vitozzi. And Caterina, this report suggests that race relations were a factor in the police's lack of action.
Absolutely. Operation Augusta, as you heard, was set up in 2004 in response to the death of a 15-year-old girl who was meant to be being looked after by the care services here in Manchester. Now, that police investigation, the report found, did identify a number of victims, predominantly Asian men working in the restaurant industry, and it also identified that these men were part of a widespread sexual exploitation of young children between the ages of 13 and 16. But really, the operation was found not to have gone any further than that. And in a press conference we've just had in the building just behind me, some of those key points from the new report were read out by the report authors. Let me tell you a few more of what was identified. It said that Operation Augusta, that police identified 68 possible suspects but failed to take action, resulting in very few perpetrators being brought to justice. The report said concerns were expressed about the risk of inciting racial hatred, as the suspects were predominantly Asian, and the operation ultimately failed to tackle the widespread and serious sexual exploitation of looked after children, enabling predators to continue their appalling activities. Now, a lot of the inner workings of Operation Augusta were brought to light by one of the people who were involved in the investigation, a former Greater Manchester Police detective called Maggie Oliver. And today, during that news conference, she was so critical of her former employer, saying that the operation at the time didn't go far enough and that she felt that there hadn't been enough accountability in the ensuing years. Here's what she said.
The perpetrators that we knew on Operation Augusta were abusing generations of children, were allowed to walk free. The kids themselves that I spoke to, I was on Operation Augusta, I wrote the report. Those children were just cast to the wind, left to their own devices. Nobody cared about them. And I am talking about the people at the top of the police and at social services, the chief constable, assistant chief constables, head of social services, the people who knew the facts, who knew the truth, and they chose to bury the truth.
Now, the review, which was commissioned by the Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, also found that children had reported, some of those victims had reported what was happening to care services that were charged with protecting them. And today the City Council apologised for its failings and saying that they have learned a lot in the last 15 years and that resources are better targeted to help protect vulnerable people. There's been a similar statement from Greater Manchester Police, which said it fell short, far short, of what the original Operation Augusta was meant to do, to try and protect the children and identify perpetrators. It said that in light of this review, it had opened a new investigation which will look and re-examine old leads, and it has also referred itself to the Independent Police Complaints Commission to investigate how and what it could have done differently.